Hey everyone, it's Jensen here. Gonna recap a little bit of what has been going on in the world of sports. Just a little bit of hits before we go into college football, which is what I really care about. We have hockey starting tonight. The Rangers and the Lightning. I think the game has already started. We've got the Ducks. They start tomorrow against Seattle and the Kraken. So it's a good time of the year. We've got baseball playoffs going on, and yeah, they'll keep on going on. We'll touch on them maybe when we get to actually the World Series. And the NFL, I'll touch on this a little bit, and then we'll get in. The NFL has a problem with their roughing the passer and stuff, with Tom Brady getting sacked and just being tackled, and there was a penalty. The same thing last night in Monday Night Football when Derek Carr was sacked and there was a fumble, and the guy that sacked him grabbed the football and got it. It was called roughing the passer, even though he was no longer even a passer. It's a little ridiculous. And we realize that this is an overreaction based on the Tua situation with the concussion. But if you want to keep your sport good, you need to keep it physical sport. Football is a violent game. It's not for everyone. It was not for me. I would be broken in half if I played, real football and not just like a turkey bowl thing. I don't have the body, and there are risks involved with it. One of the risks is CTE and concussions and everything that goes along with that. The reward is, if you're very good at it, you can make a lot of money. And you can bring yourself, lots of people have brought themselves out of poverty by working hard and being very skilled and using football as a key for their entire future and success. So there is a plus and a minus, and everyone involved needs to understand that there is a plus and a minus in there, but you can try to make it safe, but don't make it not football. People need to be hitting each other. They need to be tackling each other. It should not be two-hand touch. It should be actual football. That is what we love because of the physicality, because of how intense it is. And if you're going to take that out of the sport, and people won't like it. I realize the NFL is trying to protect players, but you need to realize that the only way to really protect players is to not play football. And that's not what anyone wants. We like the sport. I love the sport. Let's use some common sense here. Anyways, I have a top 12 rankings here that I will go into here for college football, because that's what I really want to talk about. And I'll touch on a couple of teams that weren't in here too on the last week. So we've got TCU as number 12. They ended up beating Kansas. They've got another big game against Oklahoma State. Beat Oklahoma State, and you're gonna move right on up the rankings. TCU right now, I'd like to see a little bit more from them. 11, I have Penn State. A similar thing. Penn State, you're playing Michigan this week. Win, you're way up there. Lose, you haven't played really anyone. Ole Miss I have as 10. They struggled for a little bit against Vandy before blowing them out. It's Vandy. I do think the Ole Miss is pretty darn good. I think they're still dangerous. They've got some flaws, but almost all the teams here have flaws. What can I say? Number 9, I have UCLA. They looked very impressive against UCLA. They are... Now, a lot of people are just going over and beyond, saying, oh, UCLA is the most physical team in the Pac-12 now. I wouldn't go so far to say that. I will say they are a more physical team than they normally are. But why they are dangerous is if DTR is on, the guy can make plays. They just need to be careful. If he's not on, it could get bad in a hurry. So UCLA I have coming in as 9. They look very dangerous and very easily can move up. So they have a bye this week. Their next game will be at Oregon. Beat Oregon, and UCLA realistically should probably be in the top 5. So we'll see. Then we've got number 8, Tennessee. They did exactly what I thought was going to happen. They went into LSU and they blew LSU out. Why? Because LSU is not good. And this thing kills me with a lot of the analysts out there. And they're, Tennessee is very good. And I do think they're very good. I have them ranked 8th. But beating up on some of these teams like LSU is not a good team. And just because they're in the SEC doesn't mean they're a good team. Just because they're normally a good team doesn't mean they're a good team this year. They have a lot of talent on LSU, but they're not good. And so, yes, I think it is impressive what Tennessee did, but please don't tell me how Tennessee is the best thing ever because they beat LSU. Have Tennessee beat Alabama this week. Now you're talking. And hopefully that happens. I would love to see that. And I'd love to see Tennessee up as the number 1 or number 2 team. Well, although number 2 team, because coming in at number 7 is the team I want to be number 1, USC. USC against Washington State doesn't get the credit. This is what bugs me. Tennessee gets a lot of credit for beating down an LSU team. USC doesn't get any credit for beating Washington State rather convincingly. Now, it wasn't convincingly throughout the entire game. Washington State in the second quarter comes back. They have the lead. USC's offense sputtered a little. And so there are warning signs there. But one thing I like about USC, and the more I've thought about this, and maybe it's just being a homer and biased, I don't know. But one of the things I'm liking on the defensive side of things is, 1, their second half adjustments. Washington State did not score a point in the second half. And 2, with their defense, they get gashed. And that happens. They give up some bigger plays. But they have the uncanny ability to create havoc plays and get in the backfield. Tuli, whatever his name is, 49. I just can't pronounce his name. Tuli, I'm not even going to try it anymore. Anyways, he 3 sacks, tackles for losses all over the place, and then they get that leads to turnovers. And that's where USC's defense actually is playing very, very good, despite the fact that they give up these big gash plays. But they can get teams off the field because they create one of those plays on a drive where they're sacking the quarterback, they're putting the other opponent in a bad situation. So it's really more on the offensive side of the field, which is surprising that I'm having a little bit more concerns, and they're a little inconsistent there. So hopefully, other than in the run game, Travis Dye, that guy is amazing. Anyways, moving on, because I could talk about USC forever. Michigan. I've got Michigan as number 6. They were close with Indiana in the first half and then ended up blowing them out, which is a good thing I can say about Michigan. I'm not totally impressed with anything that they've done yet. Again, they haven't played anyone yet. They'll play Penn State. We'll find out a lot more about Michigan this weekend. Number 5, I have Oklahoma State. I almost wanted to drop them a little bit. They seem to struggle a little against Texas Tech, but they did a double-digit victory. They came back and really, offensively, they're very impressive. I like Oklahoma State. I think they're very dangerous. I think they could run the Big 12. It's scary here because there's several of these teams and several team conferences that might have someone go undefeated in them. For example, number 4, Clemson. I don't think there's anyone in the ACC that's keeping up with Clemson anymore. there's really, I mean, the ACC is not a good conference. I know they're on the East Coast, and so they get, and the ESPN has, their games, and so they get a little more love than the Pac-12 gets often. But there isn't anyone other than Clemson in the ACC that is worth much. I know Syracuse is undefeated still. I don't believe in Syracuse yet, but I could be mistaken. Anyways, Clemson, DJ's playing a lot better. Their defense is very impressive. So there's that. Then we've got number 3. I've slotted down Alabama as the number 3 team. They struggled a little bit without Bryce Young. I mean, here I was saying that they could use their cheerleaders against Texas A&M and they would still win. That was not the case. They had to hold on. Very last play, it took an incompletion for Texas A&M going into the end zone for Alabama to hold on to that win. I think they'll be a lot better once Bryce Young gets back. And again, big game this week, Alabama at Tennessee. We'll find out a whole lot. I mean, we know about Alabama. They're very talented. Nick Saban is the best coach there is. So they could lose. I'm not saying they can't lose, especially if Bryce Young isn't good to go. But they're pretty good. And we'll preview that game coming up. Number 2, I have Ohio State. This could very easily be number 1. They're blowing out everyone. Their closest game was against Notre Dame, and that was an 11-point victory. So Ohio State is very impressive. They're scoring at will. But I will say this, though. They haven't played anyone. I mean, who have they played other than Notre Dame? The Big Ten is so watered down and not good. And the people say, oh, the Big Ten is good. They've got Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. And then after that, there is no one worth anything. I'm sorry, Illinois, I know they're in the top 25 now. Illinois is not a great team. I don't think. Again, could be wrong. I don't think they are. So number 1, I've got Georgia. Georgia handled Auburn. That was no big surprise. Auburn is a mess, and Georgia blew them out. Again, the only reason probably why I have Georgia as 1 and Ohio State 2 right now, because Georgia hasn't played really anyone either, is that Georgia is the defending national champions. So that gives them a little bump. Anyways, I was disappointed in BYU this last weekend. They didn't. I thought they were going to beat Notre Dame, and they just. I don't know. There's something missing in their offense. That's all I can say. I don't know, but they still have a chance to turn things around if they can get through the rest of the season, which I think they can. Then they'll be all right. That's a pretty good season if they do that. So anyways, that's my top 12 teams. Again, going Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma State, Michigan, USC, Tennessee, UCLA, Ole Miss, Penn State, and TCU. That's all. We'll preview some of